Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, let me ask you a simple question. What if the alliances you read about in newspapers are not the real ones shaping tomorrow? What if the true power shifts are happening quietly away from the headlines, and only those who pay attention will understand where the world is heading? Today, I want to take you on a journey, not of speculation, but of possibilities that are already forming. The Middle East, a region long seen as divided, is beginning to weave together new threads of unity. And standing at the center of this transformation is Pakistan, a country often underestimated, but one that holds keys capable of tilting the balance of power. Now imagine this: energy routes bypassing traditional choke points, militaries cooperating under a silent understanding, economies bound not by the West, but by their own mutual interests. On the surface, it may look like business as usual, but beneath, there is a storm quietly gathering strength, one that could place Israel in a position it never anticipated. This is not just about geopolitics. It is about foresight. It is about seeing the invisible pattern that determine the future. And I promise you, by the time we finish, you will not look at Pakistan, the Middle East, or Israel in the same way again. So stay with me until the end, because the secret we are about to uncover is not only critical for the region, it has lessons for Europe, for global stability, and for anyone who wants to understand the real direction of the 21st century. The Middle East is undergoing a transformation that many in Europe have not fully recognized yet. For decades, the region was defined by rigid blocs, predictable rivalries, and alliances heavily shaped by outside powers. Today, however, we are witnessing a quieter but decisive shift. At the center of this new dynamic lies Pakistan, a nation often perceived through the lens of South Asia alone, but in reality one deeply intertwined with the Middle East, both culturally and strategically. Pakistan is not merely an observer of regional events, it is positioning itself as a bridge between Gulf nations, rising Asian powers, and even new energy corridors that bypass traditional Western dominance. This realignment is not accidental. Gulf countries, especially Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, are reevaluating their security strategies in light of shifting US priorities and growing multipolar competition. Their focus is no longer on dependence, but on diversification. Pakistan, with its strong military, large population, and historical religious ties, offers both credibility and muscle. Unlike many outside actors, Pakistan is seen by these nations as a natural partner who shares ideological, cultural, and economic common ground. This makes collaboration easier, faster, and less vulnerable to public opposition. The regional reshaping also ties into the emergence of the Belt and Road Initiative, where Pakistan's CPEC project serves as a vital artery linking China with the Arabian Sea. This corridor not only enhances Pakistan's own importance, but also integrates Gulf economies into a larger Asian framework. Through Gwadar Port, for example, Middle Eastern energy exports could bypass choke points like the Strait of Hormuz and reach markets more securely. This prospect makes Pakistan indispensable to the Gulf while also amplifying its voice in regional decision-making. At the same time, Israel's increasing engagement with certain Arab nations introduces a complex challenge. While normalization has been cautiously pursued, it has not erased deep-rooted skepticism. Many Gulf states remain wary of being too exposed to Israel's growing Western-backed influence, and here Pakistan emerges as a counterbalance. By aligning with Pakistan, these nations gain a partner capable of softening Israel's strategic advantages without directly risking confrontation. For Europe, this evolution signals the dawn of a new regional order. It means that the old assumptions of American primacy, fragmented Arab politics, and Pakistan's limited regional role are no longer valid. A more integrated Middle East with Pakistan at its core is a reality that demands serious attention. When discussing Pakistan's place in global geopolitics, one cannot ignore its military strength and nuclear capability. This is not merely a matter of statistics or hardware. It is about influence, deterrence, and the way Pakistan's armed forces shape the decisions of allies and adversaries alike. For Middle Eastern nations seeking a reliable partner in a volatile region, Pakistan's military edge provides assurance that goes beyond symbolic alliances. Unlike many states in the Muslim world, Pakistan has repeatedly demonstrated its ability to defend its sovereignty against much larger opponents, most notably through its long-standing rivalry with India. That record of resilience is not lost on Gulf leaders who understand the value of a partner with proven military credibility. Pakistan's nuclear arsenal adds a layer of weight unmatched by any other Muslim country. It changes the calculus of regional security because it provides a form of strategic insurance, even though Pakistan has never threatened its nuclear use offensively. Its mere possession serves as a deterrent against those who might consider destabilizing the Muslim world. In this sense, Pakistan becomes not only a partner, but a guarantor of security for countries that lack such capability. The Gulf monarchies, though wealthy and armed with advanced Western technology, still rely heavily on external protection. Having Pakistan in their corner means having access to a partner that combines conventional military might with nuclear deterrence, creating a shield of credibility against potential aggression. Beyond weaponry, Pakistan's military also exports expertise. Its officers have trained armed forces in Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and other Gulf states, embedding trust and institutional ties that go back decades. Joint exercises, intelligence sharing, and defense cooperation have created a web of familiarity that no outsider can replicate. This integration means that in moments of crisis, Pakistan can seamlessly coordinate with Middle Eastern militaries, giving any alliance an operational backbone. Israel, which enjoys technological superiority and U.S. backing, is certainly aware of this dynamic. While it has managed to establish new partnerships with some Arab states, the presence of Pakistan in the background complicates its calculations. Israel cannot ignore the possibility that Pakistan's military weight, combined with the wealth of Gulf nations, could counterbalance its edge in ways that traditional Arab coalitions could not achieve alone. For Europe, this evolving relationship is critical, as it will affect the balance of power in a region that supplies much of its energy and shapes its security environment. Energy and economics have always been the heartbeat of Middle Eastern power, and Pakistan is emerging as a vital partner in shaping this pulse. At the center of this partnership is the exchange of energy resources for strategic access, infrastructure, and trade routes. Pakistan, though not energy-rich itself, is strategically located between the resource-rich Gulf states and the rapidly growing market of this geographic positioning allows it to act as a conduit, giving the Middle East new pathways to expand its reach beyond traditional Western dependence. For Gulf nations, the appeal lies in Pakistan's ability to connect them with China, Central Asia, and even Russia through projects like the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. The Qatar port, developed with Chinese investment, is central to this vision. Located on the Arabian Sea, it provides a direct outlet for Middle Eastern oil and gas exports, bypassing vulnerable maritime routes such as the Strait of Hormuz. For countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar, This reduces risk while giving them flexibility in how they supply energy to Asia. For Pakistan, the economic benefits come in the form of transit revenues, infrastructure investment, and a deeper integration into global trade flows. It becomes not just a recipient of energy, but a facilitator of energy security for multiple regions. This economic cooperation is not limited to oil and gas. Gulf nations have invested heavily in Pakistan's agriculture, real estate, banking, and even emerging technology sectors. Sovereign wealth funds from countries like the UAE and Saudi Arabia view Pakistan as a market of over 240 million people with untapped potential for consumption and production. By investing in Pakistan, they are not only diversifying their own economies, but also securing a long-term partner who would depend on them for financial stability. This creates an interdependence that strengthens political and strategic bonds. At the same time, remittances from millions of Pakistani workers in the Gulf form a lifeline for Pakistan's economy. This human connection adds another layer of economic interweaving where prosperity in one region directly supports stability in the other. The stronger these economic threads become, the harder it will be for external players, including Israel, to influence or disrupt them. Israel, though technologically advanced, cannot replicate this level of energy-based interdependence with the Gulf, which places Pakistan in a unique position to anchor regional cooperation in ways that directly affect the balance of power. For Europe, such a shift matters deeply because it impacts global energy flows and the routes that will determine economic security in the coming decades. Israel's growing presence in the Middle East has created both opportunities and anxieties, and this dual reality is shaping the way many countries in the region calculate their future alliances. The normalization agreements with certain Arab states were seen by the West as a breakthrough, but beneath the surface there remains deep caution. Many Gulf and Middle Eastern nations understand that while open relations with Israel bring access to advanced technology, intelligence cooperation, and closer ties with Washington, they also come with risks. These risks include domestic backlash from populations still sympathetic to the Palestinian cause, as well as the perception of compromising their independence in favor of Israeli and Western agendas. This is where Pakistan enters the equation as a balancing force. Unlike smaller states, Pakistan carries a combination of military power, cultural legitimacy, and global positioning that allows it to play a unique role. Middle Eastern leaders see Pakistan as a partner who can quietly counterbalance Israel's expanding influence without openly provoking confrontation. While they might sign trade or security deals with Israel, they still recognize the need to hedge their bets, ensuring that one state does not dominate the region's future. By aligning with Pakistan, they secure a form of insurance, military and ideological, that reassures their populations and reduces their vulnerability. Israel's influence in the region is also linked to Western backing, particularly from the United States. For decades, U.S. military presence in the Gulf gave Washington the leverage to protect Israel's interests indirectly. But as America recalibrates its role and reduces its deep involvement in Middle Eastern conflicts, regional states are looking for alternatives. Pakistan, with its proven defense capabilities and close ties to Gulf monarchies, naturally fits this emerging security vacuum. Its willingness to support these nations in times of need contrasts with Israel's narrow focus on its own survival and advantage. Furthermore, the symbolic weight of Pakistan cannot be overlooked. As the only Malik majority nuclear power, It represents an anchor of strength for states that remain wary of Israel's ambitions. For Gulf nations, working with Israel may bring short-term benefits, but partnering with Pakistan offers long-term alignment with a trusted ally whose interests are more organically connected to theirs. This cautious approach to Israel ensures that the region does not tilt too far in one direction and instead preserves space for Middle Eastern states to shape their destiny without being fully dependent on Israeli or Western designs. The concept of a strategic trap for Israel emerges when we examine how Pakistan and Middle Eastern countries could consolidate their cooperation into something more than symbolic gestures. On the surface, Pakistan's partnerships with Gulf nations are grounded in economic, cultural, and defense ties. But beneath that lies the potential for these relationships to evolve into a structured coalition that reshapes the balance of power. Such a coalition would not need to declare hostility toward Israel directly. Instead, it would quietly restrict Israel's ability to expand its influence while reinforcing the collective weight of its adversaries. One of the ways this trap could form is through economic corridors. If Pakistan and Gulf states deepen integration through projects like Qatar port and new energy pipelines, they create an interconnected web of trade and energy flows that Israel cannot easily access. This economic exclusion limits Israel's ability to diversify its partnerships in the region, keeping it tied primarily to Western markets while its neighbors expand eastward. Over time, this divergence could place Israel at a disadvantage, isolated from the emerging Asian center energy and trade networks. Another layer of this potential trap lies in military cooperation. Pakistan has long provided training and expertise to Gulf militaries, and if that cooperation expands into joint defense arrangements or intelligence sharing, Israel could find itself outflanked. While Israel possesses advanced technology and U.S. support, the combination of Pakistan's manpower, Gulf financial resources, and shared strategic objectives would create a formidable counterweight. This does not mean open confrontation, but it would complicate Israel's calculations in any regional dispute, forcing it to account for the possibility of a coordinated response. Ideology and public opinion also play a role. Despite diplomatic progress, many populations in the Middle East remain firmly supportive of the Palestinian cause. Aligning with Pakistan, a country that has consistently rejected recognition of Israel, gives Gulf leaders a shield against accusations of abandoning their principles. It allows them to balance pragmatic relations with Israel while quietly reinforcing a bloc that ensures Israel cannot dominate unchecked. Taken together, these dynamics form the outlines of a strategic environment where Israel is boxed in. Its technological edge and Western support remain intact, but its ability to maneuver, expand influence, or act unilaterally becomes constrained. The trap, therefore, is not a single decisive move, but the slow building of networks, economic, military, and ideological, that surround Israel with limitations it cannot easily escape. For Europe, the emerging alliance between Pakistan and the Middle East is not a distant matter confined to regional rivalries. It carries direct consequences for energy security, trade stability, and future diplomacy. The continent has long relied on Middle Eastern oil and gas, and any shift in the balance of power there inevitably ripples across European economies. If Pakistan strengthens its role as a central player in Gulf cooperation, Europe must rethink its approach because the region's energy flows and strategic priorities will no longer be shaped solely by Western influence. Instead, they will increasingly be tied to Asian markets and new power corridors, with Pakistan acting as a crucial connector This development challenges Europe's traditional assumption that the Middle East would remain fragmented and dependent on Western security guarantees. With Pakistan anchoring closer cooperation among Gulf states, Europe faces a scenario where its leverage is reduced. Energy deals may increasingly be routed through Asian partnerships, bypassing European interest. Supply chains could prioritize stability and growth in the East rather than catering to Western consumption. For European policymakers, this means that their role as brokers in the Middle East could diminish unless they adapt quickly. The strategic impact is just as important as the economic one. If Israel finds itself increasingly constrained by a Pakistani Middle Eastern bloc, Europe will need to carefully balance its ties. On one hand, Europe has strong historical, economic, and political relations with Israel. On the other, alienating the Gulf and Pakistan would risk its access to energy, investment, and trade opportunities. Navigating this delicate balance will require diplomacy that is more nuanced than ever before. It will no longer be enough to align uncritically with Israel and the United States. European nations will have to account for a multipolar reality where power is distributed differently. Moreover, security implications cannot be ignored. Europe has faced waves of instability from the Middle East in the form of refugee crises, terrorism, and disrupted trade. A strong alliance led by Pakistan could either stabilize the region through cooperation or escalate tensions if Israel perceives it as a direct threat. Both outcomes will affect Europe, making engagement with Pakistan and the Gulf a matter of necessity, not choice. What is unfolding is the construction of a new regional order, and Europe's role in it will depend on how well it anticipates and adjusts to these shifting dynamics. Ladies and gentlemen, as we have explored, the shifting dynamics between Pakistan and the Middle East are more than simple partnerships. They represent the architecture of a new regional order. From military strength to energy corridors, from economic interdependence to ideological influence. This quiet but powerful alignment carries the potential to reshape not only Israel's strategic environment, but also the wider global balance. Europe, in particular, cannot afford to watch from the sidelines. The choices made today will determine whether it remains a shaper of events or becomes a passive observer in a world increasingly defined by new alliances. The lesson is clear. The future belongs to those who see the map changing before the lines are fully redrawn. I wish you all the clarity, courage, and foresight to act with wisdom in this transforming world. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your commitment to understanding the realities that lie ahead. Good luck, and may the future bring progress, stability, and peace for all.